All right, looks like we're live. Make sure I can hear it here. Okay, there we go. All right. Now all I have to do is wait for my co-host to show up. I don't see anyone in the chat right now, otherwise I'd be talking to them. Just right howdy here. While I'm waiting for my co-host to show up, I'm currently disassembling my what was this thing called? Combiner Wars Devastator. So I got it several years ago. It was freaking awesome. It's huge, as you can see. I got it several years ago for a birthday present, and my birthday several years ago, and I was telling my partner at work about it, and oh hey, there's Miss Chris.
Hi.
So we had a someone in the chat. I was just kind of chatting with them. So, how are you?
Good. How are you? What are you doing?
I'm taking apart a transformer.
Cool. Look how big she's getting.
Yeah, it doesn't take them long, does it?
Well, she had her vet visit today, and apparently she's a little chunky. little plump.
What are we feeding her?
Kitty food.
Okay.
It's hard because the dog likes her food too. We've had a couple incidences where he's eaten all of it, so we actually don't know.
Okay.
So we may have been overfeeding her a little bit, but the vet's not. You have to come over here because it's in portrait mode.
Yeah.
Oh, there. I told Logan, because Ray wasn't here, that she could stay on before the show starts. But as soon as the show starts, you have to go. That's right.
She can stay on if she wants. I don't care.
I care.
Okay.
I know you guys don't. I do.
I know it's recording, so we'll be fine that way, but it keeps dropping the connection, so I don't know how well the broadcast itself is going to look. So
I just saw it on YouTube. It seems fine.
Okay, well, it keeps telling me that it's disconnecting and reconnecting, and I really don't know why, because I restarted everything before we started, so whatever.
Did it just start when I got on the line?
No, it was doing it before even Chris got on, so.
Hi, Jen.
Hi.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm going to see you guys in like a week and a few days.
I know.
Wow.
So excited to not be in 106-degree weather.
Well, here, let's see
how hot it is here.
Well, no, like when Jen gets here.
Last night, I was outside at 9 o'clock, or maybe it was 10 o'clock at night, and the heat index said, feels like 98 degrees at 9 o'clock at night. That is some bullshit.
Yes,
Sorry.
it is.
The week that you're here, it's supposed to be the same temperature. I don't know how to switch it to fair. 73.
Oh, that would be nice.
Yeah, and at night it'll be 19, so that's like 69. 69.
Oh, that would be nice.
Yeah.
So I asked my aunt who lives in Australia, like, how do you easily convert? Because, you know, she's American and she had to switch to that. And she was like, I don't really have like a formula. She said, I just memorize like certain temperatures or equivalents, and then I guesstimate up and down from that.
Yeah,
Like,
that's what I've done. Yeah.
As long as it's close enough, you know.
My dad, because he's 61, so he is of that era when Canada changed from imperial to metric. So he remembers having in school to do that conversion. So he tried telling me, I'm like, that first of all is too complicated and dumb. Second of all, I'm not doing that. So
days before
but
the internet.
Also, Jen, bring water shoes because we do have a rock beach and it's rock out. So
Okay,
you can wear it in the water for sure.
water shoes.
Water shoes.
Water shoes, transformer, and cereal. Apparently, our cereal game is a lot.
Yeah. Oh, feel bad for the teenager. Yeah.
No pity for mom.
I excel in other parenting styles.
When we
Pity's
go-
not one of them.
When we go next year, you gotta take a grocery shopping.
I'll take you grocery shopping.
Do I have to? Yes.
Like, I must.
I'll be right back.
All right. Yeah, I've been telling my partner about this transformer I've had for a while, and I finally just was like, dang it, I keep forgetting to bring it in. So I finally remembered and packed it up and took it in today. And
Oh, that's cool. Oh, yeah, because you're back to work now.
Wasn't that like the Mega Transformer thing?
it's the one, yeah, it was like 6 different robots that turns into one big one. It was like, it's almost 2 feet tall.
Wow.
The thing that kind of reignited all of this is Hasbro they started this thing a while back where they are doing it's kind of like crowdfunding something, but not really. Basically, they're trying to make sure there's going to be enough buyers for the. I'm trying to remember which scale Star Wars characters it is. They did Jabba's barge, and they had to meet a certain number before they actually produced it. Well, they hit it, and this barge is like 3 feet long. It's ridiculously big. So anyway, what they're shooting for now is in the 1986 Transformers movie, the villain of the movie was called Unicron, and it was basically a planet that transformed.
Mhm.
And they've had a couple of kind of versions of it that weren't great. And now they're touting a $600 version, and it's only about 25% funded. But this thing is going to be over 2 feet tall and weigh 19 pounds.
What?
And it looks phenomenal. Of course, $600. There's no way in hell I'll ever own it, but
That's a lot of plastic.
You have to sell a lot of what's it called?
Yeah.
a lot of
buy it.
matrices. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I have not had any sales the last couple of weeks, which sucks because now that I've got a third 3D printer, I'm like, well, that wasn't a smart investment right now.
Oh, it'll happen. It will
I thought you were like backed up, or did you catch up?
I got caught up though.
happen. Okay.
So
Grace
and
open up an Etsy shop.
and here's the thing, I'm learning some stuff about Etsy that really kind of sucks.
Okay.
One of the things is if you can see certain things. So like there are 20 people that have the Matrix in their cart right now.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, you know what? I'm going to run a sale. I don't normally do this. I'm going to run a sale. I'm going to put a coupon out, and anyone who has anything left in their cart will get $5 off. So I started the sale, and yesterday I went back. I was like, all right, let me check in the sale, see how it's going. And it comes back and says, we've sent out one email and one coupon. And I'm like, wait. So I got to looking at it, did some little research, and yeah, they basically, when you start these sales, when you tell it, oh, people who leave stuff in the cart and don't buy, send them a coupon. It's only the people who have done this after you've started the sale. So there's no way for me to reach the 20 people.
Oh.
Really?
Have it sitting there. Yep.
You can't private message them or anything through the site?
I can't see who they are.
Oh.
It's one of
Maybe you
those things.
should ask Etsy, like, hey, is there a way to do this that I'm missing? Maybe, like.
Nope, I've done the research on it, and everyone else has the same gripes. It's if you look at like
Shitty.
Etsy backlash, there's a ton of people that are like, I'll never sell with Etsy again. They keep changing stuff, blah blah blah. And I'm like, I don't really want to set up my own store.
What's their
Plus,
fees?
Are
they decent or are they pretty high?
They're not too bad, honestly. So, plus I get a discount on.
like the same thing as you, Eugene. He doesn't want to have to go through the hassle of setting something up from scratch. So if you're a type of person who doesn't want to set up from scratch, would you say Etsy is fine?
Yeah. If you don't want to, I mean, granted, I mean, I'm just doing this as a way to, kick in a little extra money. This isn't like my primary job. If this was my primary, then yeah, I would probably not use Etsy.
Oh, okay. Yeah, because this is just a hobby. This is just him.
Yeah.
So it doesn't clutter my house.
Well, see, and the other thing is, and I understand this. I understand where people are like, I don't want to be on Etsy because the fees, or they keep changing this, they keep doing that. But the thing is Etsy is a place people know to go.
Yeah, for handmade
to buy stuff.
Yes.
So unless they're specifically, unless I can get the Google, mojo out there saying that, go to epicallygeeky.com to buy a matrix of leadership.
Yeah.
No one would ever find the freaking thing.
Yeah.
I have sold things on eBay, but that's not really the place to sell, I don't think, homemade, handmade, unique stuff. Like I sell household stuff that I'm getting rid of.
Yeah.
It's kind of a different audience, different market, like collectibles and just that kind of stuff, but not, yeah.
And I've thought about putting a few things out there on eBay just and maybe I'll get some traction that way, but.
So did you know that bucket hats are back in style?
No.
Just so you know, this one would like that hat. I'm not lying.
Do you realize I was the nerd in high school that wore those? Like it was nerdy to wear those when I was in high school, and now they're in style.
She wants one. Yep, they're back. They're back in style.
I should have kept them all, man. I got rid of those things.
Yeah, I had the blossom hats too.
Oh God, those.
Yeah, hopefully those come back. That was a bit much. This pineapple bucket hat. She loves it so much.
For women.
Oh, for women. You're a woman. Oh, what are the odds?
Adult.
I saw a shirt advertised on my Facebook feed the other night that I don't need to spend. I really don't need to spend the money on anything right now. But I had to tell Christy about it. It's Dustin on Valcor raising his arm up, holding a mic, and it says, "Dustin presents the Never-Ending Story, one night only." Like it's a concert, and I was just like,
No,
"That is fantastic."
And the actor actually has a band, but like he's kind of postponing his tour because of his voice.
Show on your phone. What show?
It'll be recorded. I should be able to repost it later.
There's a weird time gap, and it's weird.
Okay, fair enough. Just thought I'd ask.
Sai's in the chat. I'm gonna see what he says.
Hi, Sai.
Yeah, there were 2 viewers. I can like throw it up. I'll mute it.
Yes, please. Thank you.
Are we waiting on anyone else?
Nope, it's just us 3.
Yeah. Oh, there is a bit of a time delay.
Yeah, there is a bit of a time
It's not
delay.
bad.
So.
It's only like a minute, not even.
So.
Let's see. There you go.
I kind of need to run the batteries lower on my proton pack. That's why I have it running in the background. I thought, I'll just run it and it'll look good on camera. So
Cool.
I've got to do some rewiring on it. And when I do that, I went ahead and bought, it was like less than $1. I found a small vibrating DC motor, and I'm hoping I can fit it in the wand. And so then when you'll fire it, it'll actually vibrate. I'm like, that would be so awesome.
Oh, that's very cool. Time. It's almost as if she deliberately put a paw on it and then like just slowly pulled it off.
I've seen her like jump on it once and she avoided the tape.
Yeah, I think she's figured it out. She's too smart. It's weird.
They're pretty smart.
Her dog is so dumb compared to her. Like he's like a potato compared to her. Like, that's the level of he's the potato. Are you a potato?
Yep, he's a hairy potato.
Or a potato. Pretty potato.
Are they getting along any better?
They are getting along really well, actually.
Good.
They play fight all the time.
I'm glad to hear that.
Her back. At him, and then he's like making his doggy growl noise like he just did. And she antagonizes him, and he chases her around. So they tire each other out. It's really great, actually. I was a little worried.
That's fabulous.
They're doing really well together. The vet said it's because they're both young enough. Like he's not even 2.
Mm-hmm.
So, and her being little as well. I think him being little is helpful.
Yeah, we had a basset hound in a sign. All right, if y'all are ready, I'll go ahead and start the show. Let's see here. What the heck's going on here?
You are a teenager. Where else am I supposed to? Oh, goodness.
Oh, and by the way, Jen, I was just throwing shade. All pizza does not taste the same.
I was going to say, I know you don't really think that.
You know I don't really think that.
About
We have some good pizza places, Jen, that we have to take you to.
I'm so ready. Yeah, anytime I travel, I got to find good pizza.
Like it was nothing.
Okay, is this a cat thing? Because we've had 2 dogs, and the dogs have been gems. We have a cat. This is the second pet hair. I just bought these, and
that's a cat thing.
A couple hours ago.
Good thing we didn't get the $50 ones. Oh, she would have been glued.
Yeah, the boys left one of their headphones out, and I think Luke chewed through it. Yeah, it's a thing. Of course, now here's the funny thing. I've had dogs chew on more things. Like I lost Transformers to
3 sets of headphones in a month that we've had her. Just bought those, and Logan's going to camp on Sunday.
Oh no.
Okay, well, if we don't do it Sunday,
I'm going to have to close my door.
Okay, I know. Now she's pissed off.
This is the.
Okay, I know. We're mad. I love you. It's very frustrated.
Did you get an I love you back?
No.
Yeah.
No.
Par for the course. Alex called me. I had to set up accounts for each one of the boys on the iPad so that Kendall can call them because they were using my account. And Kendall doesn't get it. Kendall would call and call and call and call and call and call. And I finally would pick it up and I'm like, Kendall, they're going to bed. They can't talk right now. Don't call anymore. Okay, Uncle Gene. Like, I'm just like, you're not getting this. If they don't pick up the first time, they're not going to pick up the 13th.
We had to talk about that
This is a life lesson.
Welcome out to the Epically Geeky Show, episode number 120. I'm your host for the evening, Eugene Stevens. Tonight's opening question is, have you ever felt like an expert at something? Chris, have you ever felt like an expert at something?
So, turns out I have a pretty intense self-deprecating mode to my personality. So this one's a little hard.
Hey, girl, I feel ya.
Once I thought of it, then it was good, and I felt good about it. But it was like, I'm not an expert in anything. What a question. So I actually thought of 3, which is now funny because of the self-deprecation. So I'm really good at people watching. I love it. I'm very good at it. I can figure people's patterns out, talk to him, and when he's upset, what to do. When I'm upset, how to talk to him to get my point across. And
right.
And then being my kid's parent, I know those 2 little buggers like crazy. So I'm an expert mom to them.
That's a really good answer. And I feel like that comes in, every so often we have to reinforce that with the grandparents because it's like, well, no, you're not with them day in and day out. Like, I know you raised kids. I'm not deprecating on that. I'm just saying these aren't your kids.
Yes.
So I understand that completely. Jen, have you ever felt like an expert on something?
Man, this was hard for me too because I'm going to be a bit Debbie Downer this episode because I always feel inadequate and like I'm an imposter in just about every situation because I never feel like I know enough, right? So I don't ever really feel like an expert or like I'm prepared completely. Mm-hmm. A lot of that's just my personality and being a perfectionist and like, retentive, but
those are things I definitely have like Like I'm okay at gift giving, but like you were saying, like keeping up with people, I'm horrible. Like I have to set reminders.
I tell myself, I'm like, I am the worst friend. I love you. I put it, but I'm terrible at keeping up with people. Absolutely.
Well, so one of my love languages is quality time. And to me, that's part of it, is like, texting, talking, physically being with someone. That's how I express love, and that's how I feel love. So that's what I think one of the reasons that's one of my things. And then gifts are another one, and acts of service. But yeah, they all kind of mix together. So anyways, I feel like, I guess in those ways, I'm kind of an expert at figuring out, what people like and getting them unique things. So yeah.
Cool.
Real quick, just a side note, remind me after the show to talk to you about that. Because I've been thinking, I'm trying to find a second book to read for this month, and that's on my list. And I was like, oh, and so anyway.
Oh, okay.
But anyway, I feel like I have felt like an expert at certain areas, and that usually, and it's because I psych myself up about it. And it usually building this proton pack, because this is my model. This is the thing that I know it front to back. What's funny is if you've ever read Steve Wozniak's book, I Was. He talks about like he was like super shy and couldn't really like talk to anyone. But then when people would come up and ask him about the computers he built, he's like, well, I knew that and I could talk to them about that. And then he was like, that's when I came out of my shell and started talking to people. And I feel that way too. Like most of the time when I enter a conversation, I try to listen more. And get as much information as I can. But if it's something that I feel like I know, like if someone's asking me questions about like the proton pack or something like that, then I feel like an expert in that, and I feel like, okay, I can, even if I give an answer, I can still say, well, this is the way I did it, or what I'm saying, something like that. So there are some times where I do feel like that, but yeah, I do have the imposter syndrome, not as much anymore. Like I said, we'll talk about that near the end, but this is one of the topics that I think I originally came up with for the show a while back, just because that's what's going on here. I didn't realize what it was.
It's not just me.
Yeah, exactly. It's not just me.
Well, can I say one more thing regarding like things you feel like an expert in? I will say, like, I feel like it's a mood, kind of like feeling like one day I'll feel like, yeah, I'm an expert in this. And then the next day I'll be like, I don't know shit about this,
Yes, absolutely.
So it's like, yeah, it's hard to say, yeah, I feel like an expert in XYZ, because it's not consistent, or it changes depending on, developments in the world, or my own, internal chemistry or whatever. So I guess everybody probably goes through that, but it's just all that to say it's normal. Everybody feels that way, and you're not crazy.
Right. And I think it also depends on the situation. So like the average person, if I go to start talking to them about 3D printing or, buildings, prop making, stuff like that, the average person, yeah, I would definitely be the expert in that situation. And I try to keep that in mind. But like if I went to a convention and there were like if Bill Duran was there, or like some of these other like professional prop makers, then I would be like, I don't know what the hell I'm doing at all. Even though it's funny I brought up Bill Duran. He actually tweeted out the other day. He's like, hey, send me what you're working on. And I sent him the video of my proton pack, and he wrote back, he's like, wow, that is yeah, no joke, right? But anyway, so like I said, the reason I thought about this was because it was something that was going through my head, from time to time, and I felt like that. And the way I've always described it to people is, if you look up the definition, I don't want to be that part. Webster's dictionary it says, I don't want to do that. It basically says people have a hard time internalizing the things that they know, or they've not become necessarily experts on, but that their achievements and their knowledge, they have a hard time internalizing that. I've always thought of it as, have you ever had that feeling like you just know someone's about to walk up to you and go, who the fuck do you think you are?
Oh,
you obviously don't know what you're talking about. Why are you even here? And I've had that from time to time.
Like the Princess Bride scene where the lady's like, boo!
Yeah.
Boo!
Yes, exactly.
That constantly is like in the back of my mind. Refuse.
So tonight we were going to talk about some situations where we've run into the imposter syndrome. Would anyone like to go first?
I'll go first.
All right, Jen.
Y'all want? Okay, so I just want to start the show out by saying I think the imposter syndrome is something that women especially suffer. My friend and I were having this conversation a while back, and we were talking about a job, and she's like, have you ever noticed that like when a woman looks at a job description, if there's like 5 things on it she can't meet, she thinks, oh, I'm not qualified, I'm not even going to try. But the man looks at it and he has 5 things and he's like, I'm good enough, and he'll apply. Like things like that. I think we tend to think, well, we have to be perfect, and that's kind of because that's what society expects of women a lot of times. Like if we are too abrasive or too confident or too whatever, then we're labeled as bitchy or insensitive or whatever. But if a guy does it, then it's, he's confident and strong and blah, blah, blah. So I think we feel like we always have to kind of go a little bit above and beyond to prove ourselves, which leads to that imposter syndrome.
I can back you up on that because of the women that I know. Anytime there's been a job that comes up, it's like, and it seems to be job. A lot of it seems to be job. It's like, well, I don't know all of this, and it's like, I'm like, you don't have to know all of it. You know enough of it. You'll learn the rest of it. It's go for it. Go apply for it or whatever. And so
I think that we do have people. Whether it's a job or, like a speaking engagement or, just a contest or something, and because that whoever you're talking to is capable of doing it. So encourage them and tell them, you know what, you're overthinking this. You're actually really great at it, kind of like you did. And that helps a lot, I have to talk myself down and say, okay, you don't have to do X, Y, and Z all the time. You can do this. So that's my thing. Just being a woman sometimes existing in this world. What's that?
Sometimes it's hard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what she said.
That's what she said.
Say it, Eugene.
That is what she said. Well, Chris, do you want to go next?
So for me, the first thing that popped up when you said imposter syndrome was when my cat's crawling on me now.
I saw that. I was like, she's attacking you.
Since she's blurred out, she keeps walking behind her, and it looks like this kind of blob sometimes.
And then when she jumps into focus, it's kind of funny.
It's like a murky monster.
Yeah.
She's really throwing me off because she's got this look like, I'm coming for you, and I'm happy about it. Anyway, so the first thing that popped up was when I was writing and full blown in it. I have never had such a manic time in my life. Soul crushing self-doubt. And it was for a year straight. And I would be crying. And then as soon as I hit that sweet spot of writing, I'd be frantic. And it was just so up and down, but it constantly in the back of my head. I'd never felt so stupid. It was, you're not good enough. Your grammar's terrible. Even though people were telling me they loved my stories and I had something, it was like,
yeah, right here.
Yeah, but I suck, right? Because I don't know where to put commas 95% of the time. This looks good here, I'm putting a comma. And I was also in a writing group, and that was throwing me off too, because they were talking about all these rules and how polished you had to be before you even sent it to an editor. And it was too much. So I had to stop but that was one of the most intense imposter syndrome parts of my life. And it's thrown me off a little bit to go back to writing, because I gave myself to it, and it was the most manic part of my life I've ever had. And it's not appealing to go back to that feeling. It's not. No matter how high I felt off the writing, those lows, no thank you. I don't want to go back. But yeah.
So you don't think you'd ever go back to writing?
Not like that before. Not like that aggressive. No. I wrote Ray a little short story for Valentine's. Not anytime soon, no. and I'm quite happy about it. I don't feel disappointed, but it was just.
Were you writing fiction?
Yeah, it was fiction.
Stories.
Yeah, and I liked what I wrote, but it was like the dark side of. I mean, all creative people are like that too, like Ray's like that, my sister-in-law's like that, and stuff like that. But it was too much. It was way too much. I hated that part of the writing so much that it's just kind of soured the taste for me.
Maybe our book club should read On Writing by Stephen King.
We actually have that book.
If you haven't read it, it's really good because basically he's just like, he's going to tell you the exact same thing I'm sure everyone else has told you. Fuck everyone else. They don't know what they're talking about. You do what you want to do. And if you like it, you do it. And screw everyone else. And I'm just like, if Stephen King feels that way, then.
Exactly. And I started, it was like 9 years ago. So I was in my late 20s and I didn't have the kind of confidence that age brings. Right.
Yeah, and I understand that completely.
So I'm a different person than I was when I was 28 when I started. So, it's different. I might look at it differently. You never say never to anything because the moment you do, of course, you do it. So
exactly, yeah. The 501st was stationed in the same room that we were in, and it was cool. That was fine because we got along with those guys. Those guys were pretty cool. And anyway, I was giving a presentation on podcasting, and I was talking about how a lot of podcasts like to have some kind of a theme music or whatever, and I was talking about how that's one of the benefits to a Mac is that you get GarageBand, and GarageBand has, a lot of loops and stuff in it. You can not only edit the podcast in there, but you can actually kind of throw together some decent songs. And as far as I know, there's not really anything free like that on the Windows side. And this girl was like, well, do you not know about Fruity Loops? And I'm like, no, I've never heard of Fruity Loops. What is it? And she's like, well, it's a site you can go to and you can get like, free stuff or whatever and kind of mix stuff together. And I was like, oh, okay. Yeah. I didn't know about it or whatever. But it was like one of those times I was like, during the moment I thought, oh man, I really don't know what I'm talking about. Why am I giving this presentation? This sucks. By the way, I was fine with it afterwards. I was like, okay, whatever. I survived, the presentation. I was pissed. A bitch. Like, why did she? Because she had it wasn't just.
Oh, did she say it rudely?
Know about this? Yeah, it was the attitude she had. With it. And like I said, because I was in the middle of a presentation, I wasn't gonna. I was just like, oh, okay, just kind of. Let's not try to start an argument in the middle of a presentation. That's the last thing you want to do. But no, she was very rude about it. In fact, I had one of the people came up and was like, I'm sorry about that happened. And I was like, it's, it's fine or whatever. Now in retrospect, I've learned, number one, the older I've gotten, the less I give a damn. But also, I've also learned some coping skills. So, like, if that were to have happened like today, I would have been like, oh, I didn't know about that. Tell me about more. And kind of, I refer to it as judo flipping the conversation, because instead of like, hey, you're coming at me with some venom, let me put you on the spot and make you the expert or whatever, and kind of see how you handle it. And if they handle it great, fine. And if they don't, then they crumble, we move on. But, and then in retrospect, I'm like, of course I wouldn't have known about this. She said specifically on the Windows side. And I did research and no one ever brought up Fruity Loops because I was like, well, what do y'all do for music on the Windows side? And most people were like, oh, well, you can go, to these places and like, have people write you a theme, or you can. Even though I did put GarageBand out there as a way to kind of throw together an intro theme, I'm guessing what most people throw together is probably garbage. And so no one was like, go do this. It's great. You can come up with something. Probably everyone was like, yeah, everything's
nobody wanted to admit.
Yeah, no one, this is not the way you want to do it. Just give your buddy $20 to write you a song that, plays with music or something. You know what I'm saying? So, but it was one of those times that, I thought I had done enough research and I thought I was knowledgeable enough about the subject that I could give a presentation on it. And now, like, I've done that presentation to the point that I don't even do it anymore. Like, plus I feel like everyone knows what a podcast is now. But no, not necessarily how to do one, but everyone knows what one is. Yeah. But yeah, now I would be like, if someone threw something out there, like I said, I would know how to handle the situation. But that was one of those times I was just like, man, I volunteered to do this thing, and I don't really know what the fuck I'm doing. So
that's kind of like something that I've learned too, when you're giving a talk or something, if someone brings something up that you didn't know about, like turn it around on them and make it a learning experience and say, well, great, this is the good part about giving a talk, is that I learn from you guys, just like, as much as you learn from me, because you can't know everything. There's no way to know what everybody does, all the
out to the public or whatever, at an event or something like that. I mean, I was teaching at this point, and I always taught to the point that I was like, hey, listen, I'm teaching this class to y'all because I know more than you do. I don't know everything. Y'all, if y'all know something that I don't, let me know so I can teach it to other people. And I'm like, I don't care that you're 8th graders. There's going to be stuff that we're going to come across that I don't know that you might know. So, let's all try to learn. And went into that presentation and didn't have that mindset loaded. And like I said, it kind of not necessarily backfired. I mean, it's not like it was a bad experience, but it is one of those things that's kind of stuck in the back of my head that I think back and I'm just like, oh yeah, I remember when that happened. This is how I should have handled it, or how I would handle it now. So yeah. What else you got for us, Jen?
So I guess I'll bring something up that's a little more relevant to the podcast. So, we recently started the Sustainably Geeky podcast last fall, and I've always kind of had a little bit of imposter syndrome over the environmental stuff, more because I don't have a formal education in it, and I'm kind of self-taught in a lot of that stuff. So I feel like people can always go back and say, well, what does she know? She didn't go to school for this. Even though I did take several classes in it, and I have probably, things where, you feel like, I'm not actually in the field working it. I don't do this for a living. I'm not an expert, even though I'm kind of a informal expert. So I kind of had to overcome that in order to even suggest doing the show and like getting, really active in that space. And I think I've pretty much overcome it now, but like in the beginning, it was a little like intimidating to think, like, what are people are going to call me out for not knowing every single statistic and every study and, whatever. But yeah, like you said, you can't know everything. And I actually got a little bit of, a taste of that when I gave a talk a few months ago at an event, and I had a climate change denier kind of start an argument in the middle of my talk. So that was a little, that was a little, like, I was a little shook after that, just because like it got a little confrontational, but he just left. So
that's
I have to deal with him after. But yeah, so.
As soon as you said, because you haven't been formally, you're not quote unquote, you don't have a degree in it or whatever. The first thing that pops in my mind is Bill Nye, because he's an engineer, but no one is an engineer. Degrees are in computer maintenance, and my master's is in educational administration. And what do I talk to people about? I talk to people about prop making and 3D printing, which, I mean, yeah.
I don't think they offer a degree in that, though.
They don't. God, I wish they would. Oh man, maybe I should suggest that I could teach that class.
You start online.
Because I could, I might be able to make some. You know what? Maybe that's a thought process. Maybe I have a conversation here about a career change. This is gonna be a really good show.
He's gonna start being on the con circuit, like just going to all the different shows.
Oh no, I'm thinking about going to KSD and say, hey, listen, y'all need someone to teach 3D printing. I'm your dude. So
they have that at the Career Center, don't they?
They do have 3D printers at the Career Center. Of course, I don't know exactly how they do it, but anyway, going down a rabbit hole. But no, I understand what you're talking about, because you're like you said, you're not the trained expert. It's stuff that you picked up on, which on the other hand, though, like, you're passionate about it. Whereas, someone who might get the degree might have just got the degree to to finish getting the degree. Whereas like this is stuff that you live and breathe. So
yeah.
But which, by the way, you've done a really good job. I like the format. I'm an expert because it works really well.
Oh, thanks.
So,
and that's Sustainably Geeky for those listening who haven't heard of it yet. Check us out.
Yeah, I don't remember if I told you that or not. I know I told Chris because I was like, I really like the format that the show's taken. So
thanks.
All right, Chris, what else you got for us?
So before I say mine, side note, Jen, I do have formal education in this, and a lot of it is seeped out of my brain. And just it has. So it's actually really nice to listen to you and be on the podcast and have the experts in, because then it's sort of like, I'm like, oh yeah, I did know that. And it's all coming back. So I feel like I'm in my classroom again in college. So it's nice. And I really, it's reigniting my passion for the environment again. So yay. I love it. So the second one that I had written down, which I think anybody who has kids can relate to, is parenting. Especially early on, because it's just, and for me especially, I had a really rough go for the first 6-ish months with Logan. I hid a pretty decent bout of postpartum depression from everybody except for Ray, because I wanted to make it seem like I could do this. It was a weird mix of, because I just didn't want to be there, but on the outside I wanted, but I also didn't want her taken away. That was the other thing too. I didn't want anybody thinking I was an unfit mom and that she was somehow going to be harmed and that they had to worry about her, because it was like, no, I can give her the basics. I just can't give her a whole lot of love and nurturing right now because it's not there. I don't have it. So yeah, that was a lot of hiding that for a while. And then when I would talk about it later on, especially when I was pregnant with Quinn, they were like, really? We had no idea. And I'm like, yeah. Had that. It was a lot of energy hiding that, because it was, Ray will talk, he can attest to that. He would come home, he was working shift when we first had her, and there were times where he thought that Logan would be in her bed, sleeping, all fed, changed, and I would be gone. So it got to that point a few times where it was, he could tell that I was on the verge of a pretty decent breakdown. So but once I got through that, and now that the kids they survived, they're 13. Being a mom, and I never thought I would, and overcoming that with Logan, and then feeling like I'm doing a good job, but like believing it and not worrying about what other people think of my parenting style, because I'm like, screw you guys, I have awesome kids. So whatever I did,
yep,
it worked. So my kids are amazing. They're amazing, amazing human beings. And that imposter syndrome I had going on at the beginning. And then a little bit with Quinn, because he was such a different toddler. Like, he was batshit crazy. And what worked on Logan was the exact opposite on him. And he had therapists involved, and there was a whole lot of stuff. And you're just like, I don't know what I'm doing. And then, but the therapists were great and reassuring us that we were doing the right thing. But most of the time it was like, I'm sorry, my kid went and crashed your Lego party. He really isn't a jerk. He just,
I hear a lot. I don't have kids, but I hear a lot that the first one tricks you. A lot of times they're so calm and easy, and then you're like, yeah, I can do another one, and then you have the second one, and it's like,
our friends Lewis and Cindy are going through that right now. Like Diego and Angel.
Logan, the guinea pig kid. But she knew that she had to be the chillest, sweetest baby. It's like she knew that she's like, no, mom's gonna have a rough go, so you got to be good. You have to be a calm, chill baby. And then when Quinn came along, was like, no, fuck you, you got it, and was like a maniac. and now he's a really chill kid. So yeah,
I completely agree with you on that. I went through a bout of depression, nowhere near that bad. but I was depressed, and I was like, this should be the happiest time of my life. Why am I depressed? And my problem was I had got it stuck in my head that this is the rest of my life. I'm not going to be able to see my friends. I'm not going to be able to do anything I want because I'm going to work all day and I'm coming home and I'm making 12 bottles. I'm washing 12 bottles and I'm making 12 bottles. And I've got to do all this other stuff. And I'm never going to have this is it. And I was getting depressed about it. And then honestly, Cy was the one that kind of talked me out of it. It wasn't even directly. It was just something. He was just like, you realize you're the one that's like putting it on yourself. And when I realized that, I was like, yeah, I am the one that's fucking myself. Why am I doing this? So, no, I know not everyone can do that, but and then Facebook is when it comes to parenting, Facebook is one of the few. This is one of the few. Christy, everyone else thinks their kids are assholes too. And guess what? It's okay to call your kid an asshole, not to their face. But it's okay because all the other parents are doing the same thing.
I have a friend that consistently will say that about her son, her youngest. She's like, yeah, he does that because he's an asshole and he hates me, or, he's ruining my life.
Oh, yeah, my sister will call me about her oldest.
Tell me how you feel.
I'll be like, so how's it going? She's like, my nephew, like, he's being an asshole. He's being a dick right now. I'm like, so we're drinking the mom wine tonight. Gotcha. All right. Yep. Yeah. I think the more as parents we talk about how hard it is and it's not a given, you just don't magically have children and you figure it out.
Right.
The easier it gets because then you don't feel like you're alone.
Yeah, I know. Absolutely. And like I said, that's one of those few areas I think Facebook is actually really good because, especially if you're tied in with other people who are at least going to be honest. Like, those parents that post nothing but, the cutesy staged pictures and whatever, fuck them. I'm talking about the ones that are just like, well, I am never taking my kid to, I'm not taking my kid anywhere until they're like 17 where they can actually appreciate something. So
17.
Not
Yeah.
at 17, they won't appreciate it then either.
No, that's true. At least at that. You're hot, you're tired. Guess what? We're only coming to Disney World once, so suck it up, Buttercup.
We paid a lot of money to be here.
Yeah.
For your privilege.
Let's see here. The second thing that I had written down was when I first became a tech in the district, and this actually kind of goes back to what you were talking about, Jen. Like, I didn't know the whole job. Like, I had a pretty decent idea of what the job was going to be. And then I actually talked myself into the job and got the job. And my partner had never worked in the district, but he was, he had a tech background as well. He was a really good guy. I'm still friends with Maurice. And, but we had like zero training. And then the training we did get was actually wrong. And we did have, we leaned on some other techs and we actually, had some good people from, to help us out or whatever. But I walked into that job and just like I said, there was no training. It was all JT. And it was just like, people were walking in, asking me questions. And I'm like, I don't know. And then, so a lot of them were like, okay, I understand you're new on the job. If you can just find out and get back to me, they were cool about it. And then you had some of those people who are just like, well, then why are you here? Well, how did you get this job? And I'm just like,
because you knew everything on day one. Asshole.
Yeah, of course. But I was also younger and I freaking told off a guy the other day because he was a jerk in my office and I just told him off. And younger me would have been like, oh, okay, well, I'll try to find out. And I was just like, no, this is how it is. And if you don't like it, tough, whatever. I'll tell you about that story after the show. But yeah, it's one of those things that like when I first walked into the job, it was like, okay, I don't know what I'm doing. And I think a lot of people have that. Especially when you first start a job. I mean, yeah, you understand you're the new guy. That's the thing. When you're the new guy, quote unquote, you're expected to not know everything. And usually most people will give you, a little leeway. Most people, not everyone. But that's kind of like the biggest times that I felt like that. And for the most part, like I've had the same job. It's different at the different levels I've been at. So I have had to learn the campus and kind of learn the new things, that goes on the different levels. But yeah, that's when I tend to have the thing. And granted, I haven't switched. Like the last couple of times I've switched campuses, it was just like, all right, well, I just got to figure out where everything is. I already know the job, so I'm not worried about it. If I were to switch jobs again, I wonder how much of it would come back to me of being, do I know what I'm doing? So, but now I'm just like, I'll figure it out. So.
And my other thing was work. I mean, just about every job I've ever had, I always felt underqualified for some reason or another. And usually it's mostly just because you're new and you don't know how the systems work, right? Like,
right.
I've kind of realized that over time, but in the beginning, I'm like, oh my God, this is all overwhelming. I don't understand, blah, blah, blah. But you kind of learn how to improvise or how to figure things out. Or in my case, I'm really good at like meeting people and building relationships, so I can just call people personally and ask for their help, or like stupid, quote unquote, stupid questions that I would be embarrassed to just ask anybody. I know, hey, I can ask my friend because they won't judge me too hard. So, especially like I got a job, my last job at the chamber, the first job that I had there, in communications. Didn't have any formal communications work experience, but I had other experience, that related to the job. And so that had a big learning curve there, but there were a lot of things like I had to learn Photoshop and InDesign, and those programs, even if you take the class, are not tough. Intuitive at all.
No,
and
they are not.
I was calling favors into friends constantly, like, how do I do this? Like little things like that. So yeah, that was kind of a big like blow to my confidence. Learn, you do get it after a while, and like you said, you kind of stop giving a damn about what other people think and trying to please other people the older you get too, because you realize it's just not worth it. Like, yeah. So I'd say that's my other thing, is just work in general. Every job, you kind of go through that.
Yep, absolutely. I can definitely echo that. Chris, do you have anything else?
I just have one more.
Okay.
But I also have felt like that about every single job I ever started. And I suck. So one of the big things for me is social media. I'm one of those people that it really affects, and it could affect really positively, or it can send me down a huge spiral of shit. So at the beginning, when social media first started popping up, it was really great. I started connecting with people I hadn't talked to in years. One of my oldest friends I hadn't seen in like 8 years. And I'm like, I've made people and I got married, look. And we now reconnect with each other like every year.
Made people.
Yeah. I know, that's awesome.
It was really great at the beginning. And I loved taking pictures of the kids. It was nice to show family that we don't see very often, how the kids were growing and how we were doing. It's just a really great way to stay up to date. But slowly over time, and my feelings were constantly getting hurt. And I was worried about posting things that I would seem like fake or just annoying. Like I was worrying about how I was coming across, and I would stop myself from being creative that way. And it was really starting to affect my personality. And it was just like, I'm turning into a bit of a douche about this whole thing. And it wasn't fun for me anymore. I was trying to retreat and get away and just be like, no, I don't want to share anything with anybody anymore, because it all feels like I can't step out of line or anything, because I'm putting my life out there to be judged, essentially. Because people on the internet can be horrible, and people you're friends with or strong acquaintances with or whatever can still judge you, because I was doing that too. So huge imposter syndrome about, I'm actually really not a nice person. I'm looking at these people and judging them like, why wasn't I invited to that thing? Because, well, there's all my friends and I'm sitting at home, and thinking those sorts of things, when it's just like, am I really good friends with those people? Nah, probably not, because I wouldn't invite them to a similar thing. So why am I getting all huffy?
Yeah.
So I just stopped. And so what I've come to realize is that I like social media. I just like being a people watcher. I really don't feel like happiness. There's this a couple of families online that I really like following because they just, I know that social media is a big curation, but I'm like, I don't know. I like what they're curating. I'm digging it. I like that they're happy or they seem happy and that, you know, they look like they're thriving and that makes me happy, but I have no desire anymore to show any of that.
Mm-hmm.
Feel compelled to send snapshots to people I don't see anymore or haven't seen in a while. It's just kind of lost its novelty for me. But I do like seeing other people's posts. So I don't know if that's like really hypocritical or what it is.
No, I completely understand where you're coming from here. I mean, I'm not so much the worrying about what other people were necessarily thinking or whatever, but I've just noticed that like I don't post a lot anymore. Like I'll go into my thing and I'll be like, wow, that was the last thing I posted.
Yeah.
And I kind of think I'm like, should I be posting more? But then I'm like, but if I don't want to force it either, so I'll just post when I find something I find interesting and
Yeah.
oh well, I'm also, and the other thing is, and I have to keep this in mind, I'm also not trying to necessarily build it as a brand. Like if I were doing that, then I would definitely like have an alarm on my phone, be like, yep, time to post to everything today.
How much I actually cared what other people thought about me and how I was perceived. And then I read a really great book called The Courage to be Disliked. And I'm like, oh yeah, no, I really care. That's not good at all. So I feel like one day I'll get back into it and it'll be a good thing again. But right now it's just, I'm just enjoying being an observer.
It sounds like you've come to terms with, like, you understand how it makes you feel and you've taken action to, you know, not be in a situation where you're unhappy. And that's good because a lot of people will just continue, you know, like obsessing and being like, what are they doing? Why are they look so happy? Blah, blah, blah. My life, you know, making comparisons when you got to step back and just be like, this isn't healthy. I got to.
Yeah. And
also, go ahead. I was just going to say also realizing everybody else is just faking it and putting their pretty pictures forward.
Yeah. Which I feel like absolutely go ahead. You don't have to show the shit of your life. There's no thing that says you are obligated to show your child on the floor having a fucking tantrum or the mess of your house or anything, or, you know, the fight you just had with your significant other or family member. You don't have to show any. Sharing everything, grass is greener, the whole 9 yards. And especially with parenting, I know it can be great. Like now it's a little bit, you can find those honesty things, but at the beginning it wasn't. And I had some mom friends who were super, super judgy. And I'm not friends with them really anymore because it's like, you know what? I am who I am and I parent the way I parent. I get your kid's perfect. That's fantastic. But I think my kid's perfect too. And I can't parent the way you parent. So it's taking a step back and it was just like, Facebook, I can't anymore. I don't care about your 80 things you did today that you felt compelled to post. I don't care. And my mom, when she first got on it, was really, really bitchy about it. She's like, you didn't comment on my picture. You didn't comment on the comment that I made. You didn't like my post. I'm like, oh my God, no, I didn't. But like, she's calling me, telling me that I did. And then she would call me out on her status. Like one day she called me out like, what did Ray do to my Facebook? It's not opening. And I put right underneath her status, like, you're on Facebook right now.
Oh my God, that's awesome.
But it's amazing because, I mean, I got like sucked into the rabbit hole so hard.
Yeah.
It's so funny though. I highly recommend it if you're looking for a fun time and you have a sense of humor. You're not going to get offended by it. Anyways.
It reminds me of this post I saw earlier this week, and I had to share it with my partner at work. It was like someone was like, I propose we do a TV show where we tell all the baby boomers follow your own advice about getting a job and go out in the job search and see how long it takes them to break down.
Yeah.
And then the comments, of course, were things like, you know, make sure you send a thank you note afterwards and shit like that. And I'm just like, yeah, good luck with that.
Yeah.
But equal opportunity, there's also one for millennials, which is equally as funny.
Oh yeah.
You can pretend to be a millennial and post that shit too. So.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah. It's funny. It's funny how everyone wants to blame the other group, and on the whole time I'm just like, y'all are all fucked up. Like
this has been happening since the beginning of time.
Oh yeah.
This generation says the younger generation's full of shit. And yeah, it's
back in my day. And
I'm more so falling into the smaller camp of, you're really not the greatest generation. Like y'all kind of fucked a bunch of shit up. So maybe keep your mouth shut. Just saying. Same thing goes to my generation. Same thing goes to the millennials. Guess what? Y'all are still fucking up shit. Like everyone's gonna fuck up stuff. Let's just see if we can fuck up stuff less.
But somebody made the comment like nobody ever talks shit about Gen Xers, and it's like, yeah, because they just kind of gave up, and we all just forgot about. It's kind of like they're just like, yeah, you both suck. We hate both of you, and
exactly, yeah, we hate everybody.
Yeah.
So
I can respect.
Exactly. Which brings me to the third thing, and this is actually the anti-argument to the whole imposter syndrome. This is how I got over it. I've been listening to podcasts for quite a while, and there's certain people I listen to, and I don't agree with everything they say, but one of the things that I thought was really good was one of the guys I listened to was like, he basically, well, it's Brian Brushwood. He now basically has a media empire. He quit his job. He was working at Dell, made a deal with his wife to become a street magician, and then turned that into a bunch of tools. Has end up several podcasts. He has a website where he sells stuff, and like he's doing really good, and he's enjoying time with his family and stuff. And anyway, and one of the things that he started talking about was like he wrote a book that he self-published, and it was like it was like he even put a fake ISBN number on the back of it. And like he's like, but you don't understand, like I learned so many ways to scam people, because it's what his whole thing was learning. When I say scam people, not scamming people out of money, but like his whole thing, his first show that really took off was called Scam School, and it was showing people tricks to do at a bar to like get to know other people, and like maybe even get them to buy you a drink. He's like, that should be your goal, is to make people happy, make people laugh, and maybe get them to buy you a drink. And if you can do that, great, and then you can build onto that. And like one of the first things he started talking about, he's like, well, one of the greatest realizations in my life is that everybody is full of shit and nobody knows anything. And if they say they do, it's just because they've reached a point in their life, or they have enough confidence where they can make you think that. But they probably really don't. They probably only know about half, if that much, of what it is they think. And the more that I've gone through my life, and the older I've gotten, the more I've come to realize, I'm like, yeah, some of these people that are above me, or are experts or whatever, I talk to them. Air that they know it, but I'm like, I'm willing to bet they're sitting there going, God, please don't ask this question. Please don't ask this question.
People that you used to idolize, that you kind of learn over time, oh, they're not that great of a person, or they're not that smart, or whatever I thought they were.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
It can be a letdown.
And the ones, and this is what the really other eye-opening thing is, the ones who actually are experts in their field are usually the first ones that'll say, I don't know, or I'd love to learn about this. I mean, for a good example, for there was a commercial before something I was watching on YouTube today. There's a website, I think it's called Masterclass, where these experts are teaching classes, and the advertisement that I watched was Penn and Teller are doing this master class on teaching magic. And I mean, stuff like card tricks, rope tricks. I mean, some, what you consider simpler stuff, but I mean, of course they are masters at their craft. But like they also do a show, they used to do a show where it was like full Penn and Teller.
Yeah.
And they were actively looking for people to do stuff so that they could go, wow, I don't understand how you do that. Please tell me how you did that. Mm-hmm. And wanted to learn. Like those are the people that I like look up to now. And I'm like, well, you are really a master of your trade. Do you know a lot of everything. I'm like, you don't know shit. So I don't worry about those people anymore. And so like going into the lessons that I've taught now, I just try to keep that in mind that I don't know everything. And if you come in and you have something to share that I don't know, it's like, cool, tell me more about it. And let's try to incorporate it into the talk. And it works wonders. It's like you were saying, of course, you were in a situation, Jen, where like the person you were talking to, it didn't matter what you say, you weren't going to convince them either way. So, that's
they had their mind made up before they came in. They weren't open to new ideas. Yeah.
Right. And what's funny is, and I've heard this guy, his name's Andrew Main. He gave one of the best quotes, or one of the best things he ever said forth was, he's like, anytime I ever have a conversation with someone that believes something different than I do, my first question is what would it take for you to change your mind? And if the answer is nothing, you're not having a conversation, you're having a religious argument. Mm-hmm. Because if the answer is nothing you're ever going to tell me is going to change my mind, all right, cool. That's fine. Then this conversation's over with.
Yeah.
Done. So, and of course, unfortunately, that was the thing you were in. But, yeah, like I really do try to keep in my mind that everyone's full of shit. And act like you know everything, the less likely I'm going to believe anything you say. Yeah. So. But anyway, well, I think this was a good discussion. Does anyone have anything else they want to add?
I'm just going to say one more thing is just adulting in general. I, on a regular basis, do not feel like a true adult still. I'm 34 years old, and there will be days when I'm like, someone should ask the adults what to do. or where I want to call someone to like find out how to do things that I should know how to do already, or I have to call someone. So adulting.
Who here still contacts their parents and asks them questions about shit you think you should know?
Yeah.
Right here.
For sure.
Car stuff.
Oh,
I'm like, I'm a 41-year-old man. I should know some of this shit. But I call my dad. Hey, Dad, what do you think this is?
Yeah.
It's funny. I used to listen to a podcast. They don't do the podcast anymore, but I listened to this podcast, and all three of these guys, now granted, their shtick was kind of, the fact that they kind of bumble through life, but they were like, does anyone else ever feel like there was a man handbook that you just never got? Like no one ever gave it to you? And it's shit like, how to buy a car and how to do this. And it's like stuff that you're just like, oh, my dad knows how to do that. And I never learned somehow or another.
Yeah. Like some days I just sit there and I think, I gotta keep my house clean and buy groceries and, do the laundry and keep up with my own hygiene and exercise and eat. And, I want to have relationships with friends and family. And like, as I'm listing everything, I'm like, how the fuck do I function? Like, and keep my bills paid. And, just like the list gets bigger and I constantly feel inadequate. Like I'm coming up short on one or the other, or I just like legitimately don't know what to do about a certain problem that I'm having, especially when it comes to my house and keeping up with that kind of stuff. But yeah, so adulting, huge imposter syndrome.
Nope, I completely understand.
I don't feel my age in my head. That's the thing.
Exactly.
Yep. I don't. In my head, I'm still like 15. So when, like today I was up and down at work, like up and down, up and down, up and down. And at one point I'm like, oh God, my knees.
My back.
Oh, my knees hurt. Why do my knees hurt? And then it's just, like trying to feed other people in the house and like trying to take care of, it's like, who the hell said that I could do this? Like in what world was this a good idea?
Trusted me, yeah.
Well, see, Christy gets on to me for some of the timers and stuff that are like the reminders and stuff I have. And I'm like, there's a lot of, no, I completely understand, Jen. And it's one of those things that's just like, something's got to give. Like,
well, the funny thing is, like, I'll be, having a conversation with someone or someone will refer to me and they'll say, oh yeah, that lady or that woman. And I'm like, who are they talking about? Because I still in my head think of myself as a girl for some reason, even though, and not in like a derogatory way, just like, I just feel like
I don't feel like
a woman is an adult term. Like I haven't gotten to that point yet.
My mom is a woman. I'm not a woman. My mom, my grandma, they're women.
Yep.
So weird.
I remember the first time I got mammed. I'm like, pardon me? I am not a ma'am. Do I look 45? No, I'm not a ma'am. And when I get to be 45 and I get mammed again, I'll up the age. Like,
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
We'll never feel old enough to be mammed.
Yeah. Well, I think it also helps us in the fact that, like, because we're all geeks, like, we can look around our houses and see. I have a transformer sitting here. I have a proton pack behind me. I've got toys and stuff here. So it helps kind of keep me grounded. Like, there's this one guy in particular. He was kind of a really goofy guy or whatever. And now, like, when I follow him on Facebook, he's always talking about his business and this, that, and the other, and all this grown up stuff. And I'm just like, wow, you got old. I have no hair, and I definitely look like I'm 40, but man, you got old. And I understand what you're saying. Like, I guess, like, I consider myself a dude. I'm not a boy, but I don't feel like a full man. Maybe I'm a dude or something. I don't know.
Yeah, but then I have times where I look at my younger siblings, because I have like a sister that's 18 and a brother that's 20, and I'm like, wow, I guess I am kind of an adult compared to what they're doing. And I'm like, I remember going through that shit. That sucked.
Nothing will put you in your place quicker than hanging out with younger people, because when they start talking about the stuff that worries them and is, important to them, and you're just like,
that worries
the
them.
fuck are you talking about? I've got bills to pay. I don't give a shit about whatever you're talking about.
Real problems.
Exactly. Yeah, I've got real problems. Come talk to me whenever you're behind on your car payment or something. So
you're trying to figure out what color paint to put on your walls or some dumb shit.
Okay, here's a great example. I've spent most of the week troubleshooting my garage door opener because it works or it doesn't work in the morning. Or do I spend $75 for a new part, or do I go ahead and just buy a brand new one for $150? Well, I'm only going to be in the house for probably 5 or 6 more years, so that's the type of shit I'm worried about. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah. Adulting. Yeah, when you start comparing and talking about lawns and shit like that your parents used to talk about, and I've done it.
Or the thing that is funny to me, when I was a kid and my grandmother wanted to go out and look at houses, drive around, drive really slow and look at houses, and I was like, what the fuck are we doing? And now I find myself like, oh wow, I really like how they did their lawn.
Like that going too fast. Yeah, we used to do that. We used to hop in the car and go around the neighborhood. My mom would be like, slow. She wouldn't drive. She'd be in the passenger seat. We'd go up to the fancy part of town because we lived in the welfare housing. And she'd be like, slow down. And then we'd like,
understood it.
Speed up. And so when I do that too, when we're driving by, that's why I like to walk what we call the bougie side of our street, because I can go slower. But I like looking at houses now. It's so weird. I thought my mom was embarrassing for doing that, and now
we've turned into our family, our parents.
I knew I became an adult when Christy and I would start getting like we wouldn't like wake up early, but we would wake up in the morning and we. And I'm just like, oh my God, we're fucking old.
I feel like we have a topic for a future episode here.
Oh yes, I think this could be an excellent topic. When you figured out you were an adult.
Oh.
So
things that
wasn't when I had a kid.
There's a show I listen to, a syndicated morning show on the radio called Bobby Bones Show, and they have a segment where they play, that song "Time Marches On." It's like an old '90s country song, and they play the lyrics from that, and they will talk about something in their life that happened recently that made them like really feel old. That's how I feel right now. It's like, had to go use the what's the icy hot, from a back. Time marches on.
Yeah. Yep.
That's what we need to do, that episode.
Yeah, I think that definitely needs to go on the list of things to do for episodes. So, let's go ahead and move to our picks and pans for the week. Would anyone like to go first?
Okay. Speaking of adulting and things you never thought you'd do, I have 2 picks. They're both shows. One of them is Bob Ross. Beauty is everywhere. And another one is called Blown Away, about glass blowing.
I started that show.
They're calming. I enjoy watching them. No drama, not really, not with glass blowing. Like, oh, the glass broke. Well, of course, it's glass.
Yeah.
But with Bob, this morning I turned him on before I went to work. I'm like, he is a calming dude. Just the energy he exudes. I'm like, I don't need to be hyped up today. Let's just watch this dude make little trees. And it was amazing.
Yeah. I have put on Bob Ross in the background. Like, I'm normally not the guy that, like, I usually have my headphones in. I'm listening to a podcast or an audiobook or something like that, even if I'm re-listening to something. But on a rare occasion, I'll be like, I just kind of need something on in the background. Yeah. And it's perfect for that because you can walk by and you'll be like, oh, man, you're ruining that picture. It looks, oh, no, that looks wonderful. It's just happiness.
Yeah. There's no such thing as mistakes. They're birds.
Yeah. Just happy little mistakes.
Happy.
All right. Happy. Yeah.
Happy accidents.
Happy accidents. That's it.
Yeah. And I love him. I love him.
I love him.
Yeah. He's just so calming, and it's nice and needing to be calm in the morning. Like there's no need to amp up. There's no stress. I'm good. Like needing my life to be like perpetually calm. I'm like, oh God.
Those are good picks. And like I said, I've only gotten 2 or 3 episodes in, but glass blowing is one. Glass blowing and
you can go do it.
Yes.
Go do it.
I know. Yeah, it's on the to-do list. So
we should all go blow some glass.
I was gonna take Christy to do that on a date night one time, and something came up, and I don't remember why I didn't go. And I'm just like, we need to go back and do this because I really want to do this. You're freaking blowing molten glass, and it looks awesome.
It's so cool. I've stopped in there and watched them do it, and it's amazing to see like how they mold this liquid, hot, scary shit into something beautiful.
Yes,
it's amazing.
Absolutely.
Those shows are, by the way.
They're what?
Yes.
They're on Netflix.
Yes, they are. Mm-hmm. Jen, you want to go next?
I guess I'll just mention that I'm going to be visiting Canada in a week, so that's my big excitement right now. I will be visiting Ray and Chris and the kids and stopping in Niagara Falls and
nice.
Just chilling. So, and Sean, I guess I'll see him too.
Yeah, we got to figure that out.
But yeah, so if we record a show during that time, then I guess there'll be 3 of us instead of just the 2 of them. I don't know if they'll
all Canadians. It'll be just
Americans have like abandoned the show.
I know, right?
Calling y'all out right now.
Yep, it's all good. I love my Canadians. Well, I've got 2 picks, both also on Netflix. Did finish Stranger Things season 3. I know there were some people that didn't like it for whatever reasons. I loved it. The thing I talked about before the show, when that happens and it just like everything stops, I'm just like, this is fantastic. But yeah, I loved it. By the way, you haven't seen it yet, Chris. Have you looked up Hopper PI?
Oh my God, no! But now I want to.
Look it up. It's the intro from Magnum PI, but with all clips of Hopper, and it's so good.
I liked this season. I just felt for me it was a little too gory. It was too much of that. But other than that, I thought the story was good. I liked it. Mine did not. She had lots of things to say about it. But Logan, she's right here. She's like, I heard Stranger Things. Immediately came
out. My second pick is, I guess I have a third one. The third one is my wife and I have talked improvement shows. So we've been watching a lot of Fixer Upper, which was Chip and Joanna Gaines. It's here in Waco, which is right down the road from us. And we just like watching these home improvement shows where people do these really cool things to their house. And it's just like, man, one day that would be awesome to do. And then my third pick is we finished this latest season of Queer Eye. And if you need a show to just if you just need a feel good show, that's a great way to go. I know Lainey said some of the
a
earlier
lot of people love it.
The later episode with the older guy who didn't feel like he had really made anything of his life, and then getting back with his family.
Oh, he was amazing.
That was kind of a tearjerker. Got a little misty on that one. So, but yeah, it's just a great show. It's just a good feel good show. The whole that number one, the group of guys are hilarious. But yeah, just seeing what they do to help out these people is it's great. It's a good show to watch. So
they do not give Bobby enough airtime for what he does. That man
he does, yeah.
Houses and he gets no airtime. I'm just saying.
That is true. That is true.
Just because he's not as big personality like John or.
It focuses less on. I mean, I know he tries to incorporate the person into the redo, but it's less with the person itself. You know what I'm saying? So unless he does things where he's like, "Hey, come help me make something." So, but, all right. Well, that is our show for the week, ladies and gentlemen. If you would please give us a 5-star rating on iTunes, Stitcher, Google Music, pretty much anywhere you can find a podcast, we should be there. You can find us at Epically Geeky on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, and of course at epicallygeeky.com. You can also find us on Etsy. We do have an Etsy store where you can find some cool things to maybe purchase would be helpful. We've also got 2 other shows. We have the Sustainably Geeky show. It looks like our next recording is not going to be till close to the end of the month.
Marginally. You mean marginally?
Marginally. I'm sorry. Marginally. Yeah. Won't be close to the end of the month. Life happens, and sometimes reading doesn't end up on the priority list. So, but we're reading Marvel Comics, The Untold Story. So, and I would still like to try to work to get the author back on. That would be fun. So, and then when are you recording a new episode of Sustainably Geeky?
We actually just recorded it Tuesday. I have to edit it, and I'll get it to you soon. So we'll be talking about oceans.
Yeah, so definitely check out our other shows. Like, we've got some really good content out there for you to listen to. So, where can we find you online, Chris?
You can find me here at Epically Geeky and Marginally Geeky and Sustainably Geeky. Although I had to miss this last episode, we had unexpected company, but I'm excited to listen to it. And then on Instagram, it's Cedar Birch Cottage. But I'm not really posting anything. But if you have accounts that you enjoy, that you find soothing, uplifting, happy, DM me. I'd like to see them.
Nice. I can't remember what it's called. I think it's called Whiskers and Purrs.
Aww.
It's a woman in Canada who fosters kittens, and it's fantastic. So, Jen, where can we find you online?
You can find me on the Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. It's going to be me. And, of course, here on Epically Geeky, Marginally Geeky, and Sustainably Geeky. Like we said, we have a new episode dropping soon. We also started an Instagram and Twitter for Sustainably Geeky, so follow us there in addition to Facebook. And then I think that's everything.
Good deal. And as always, at Optimus Proton Pack more explained and filled out or whatever. So, but yeah, I'm hoping to work on some other smaller projects and get those posted as well. So for everyone on the site, have a good night.